welcome to another glamour-filled QI Night of 1,000 Stars. Spread-eagled on my casting couch are Josie Lawrence, the stunning Johnny Sessions, the gorgeous, pouting Rich Hall, and Alan Davis. Well, let's see you toy with your globes, girls. See if anyone rings my bell. Rich. And Johnny. And Josie. And Alan.
Well, hello. Ding dong.
Oh, there we are. Fair enough. And so to question one. What eat clothes?
Ding dong.
I don't know, I just wanted to do that. What eats clothes?
Yeah.
Moths eat clothes.
Moths?
Yes.
Oh, no, they don't.
They make holes in them, though, don't they?
Not moths, no, they're larvae. They're little caterpillars do, but not the moths.
You see?
You see?
Lava.
So by the time you see a moth,
It never
it's
eats
too
clothes.
late.
And you very rarely do. They're only a quarter of an inch long, the actual moths. Supposedly there are fewer of them due to synthetic materials, which they don't eat, and dry cleaning. If you dry clean something, it works as well as a mothball.
Really?
That camphor naphthalene smell.
I don't think I've ever smelt one.
It's
Have you not?
horrible. It's like a dead body.
young.
If I've got a mothball in this hand and a mothball in that hand, what have I got?
2 mothballs.
A rather excited moth.
All right. Sorry, I thought you were literally asking. I've never smelt a dead body either.
No, I haven't. I've never seen a dead body. They say policeman things, once you've smelt death, it almost never
hideous.
gets out of your nostrils.
But I tell you something quite interesting.
Yeah.
Is that leopards eat rotting flesh. They don't mind it. Cheetahs will only eat fresh.
Really?
They eat when they've killed, there and then, and they eat as quickly as they can because otherwise a lion will come over and have it off them. But a leopard will drag something up into the tree and leave it there days on end, go back, have a bit more. Even if it's green and maggoty, don't
There's
care.
a new theory about Tyrannosaurus rex being a scavenger, not in fact going and attacking big, hairy-assed monsters, but waiting until they were dead and rotting like an old Stilton, and then eating them.
Yeah.
In Jurassic Park 2, a Tyrannosaurus rex eats a man who's sitting on the loo.
That's right.
Do you think that's inaccurate, then?
No, yeah,
Well, it is, yeah.
but he's an accountant.
He's an accountant.
Well, there you are, yes. Moths don't eat clothes, their larvae do, they're caterpillars. Anyway, next question is, why butterflies?
Wow, that's a short question.
Isn't it? 2 words.
You mean why are they called that?
It doesn't actually mean that, no. It means why do they exist?
Why are they?
Yeah.
I think it's evil to put a food in front of any bug, to name it like a butterfly. Because I would eat butterflies when I was a kid, because I thought they had butter in them. And honeybees.
There are 2 theories as to why...
And a hamster. Because, you know, you're 4 years old, you don't know better. And we were poor.
There are 2 theories as to why they're called butterflies. One is that it's from a Dutch word which means excretes butter. There was this theory that they actually shat butter early on. And the other is that it's from an Anglo-Saxon, that the most common butterflies in England when the Anglo-Saxons invaded Britain were yellow and were butter-coloured. It's as boring as that. But no, the reason they exist, they're quite a late addition, as it were, to the family of creatures,
What,
compared to their
70s or
closest
something
relations.
like that? When do they start, then, butterfly? They were around when I was a kid.
Yes. For 100 million years before butterflies evolved, moths had been around, and it's generally believed that butterflies were kind of an evolution from moths because moths have one big disadvantage. What is it about moths that's different from butterflies? That the most
They
obvious
go
thing?
around at the
Go
night.
around at night. Yeah, and they get eaten a lot.
Butterflies go in the day.
Yeah. And the moths have been eaten a lot by bats.
By bats.
And so the idea was that the butterfly...
Bat's a bat.
Yeah, there's a bat.
Seen a moth there.
Yep. Well, not seeing, but hearing. Yeah.
And it's heard a moth. It's
Yeah.
sensed a moth.
Sensed a moth, exactly. Precision of their echolocation is remarkable.
But if you put cotton wool in their ears, they're useless. I mean,
No, you're absolutely right.
they bounce off the wall like Canadian
This is how it
squash
was
balls.
discovered. It was actually in the 18th century. A French scientist put cotton wool in the ears of bats and saw that they were, and so he posited the idea that they had this extra sense. And then it was poo-pooed, and for 150 years it wasn't reconsidered. And we now know he was absolutely right. But they send out these signals that bounce back, exactly like sonar, only much more effective than sonar.
Well, that's why they never bump into you as well at night.
That's
People
right.
get so scared of bats and they go like that, but they would never, ever bump into you. They'd always move
I
on.
saw David Attenborough being interviewed, and when she said he once did a piece to camera for Life on Earth or something about bats, saying one thing that's never true about bats is you never get them caught in your hair. It's never true. They have such accurate bats.
Stephen, can I tell you something about David Attenborough?
Go on.
Because he is my god. Ages ago, they're doing a column in one of the papers. Who would you most like to be like? And so I said, David Attenborough. I love the career he's had. I love his wisdom. I love his sense of adventure. And a couple of weeks later, the article came out. It was actually, who would you most like to look like? There's a lovely picture of me next to David, and then, like, Toya Wilcox next to Audrey Hepburn.
Little humour to go from David Attenborough to Richard Attenborough, and when he was directing the great Ben Kingsley and Gandhi, you should probably know that I think there were maybe 1 million, possibly even 2 million extras during Gandhi's funeral, and the first assistant, the very famous and redoubtable David Tomlin, was told by Sir Dickie Attenborough to instruct the crowd as to how they may react. And he said to David Tomlin, I want you to convey to them, David, that Gandhi's died, and it's an extraordinary event, darling, an extraordinary event in the whole history of India, darling, that Gandhi is gone, that their god, their national hero is gone. So David Tomlin turned to the crowd and he said, right, listen up. Gandhi's dead and you're all sane.
Excellent. Very good.
Hey, I don't have an anecdote, but I have a joke.
Go on. We're open to jokes too.
These 2 vampire bats in a cave, been flying around, and, you know, they like blood. Haven't had any in a while. One of them goes out on a recon, comes back, face just covered in blood. The other bat's beside himself. He says, wow, what happened? And he points to this village, the bat, well, he flaps to it. You know, he says, see that village over there? And the other bat says, yeah. See that steeple? Yeah. I didn't.
No, so moths had to devise strategies to beat the bat. And some have evolved to hear the bat's echolocation screeching, which humans can't hear, as you know, it's very high. And other ones decided to live during the day, and they became butterflies.
Now, moths are all right at night. They like being in the dark. They like living in clothes in cupboards.
Yeah.
So what is this thing they have about candles and
Isn't it mad? I agree with you.
the light in the porch,
There you
for
are.
example?
You're a
Mad for
nocturnal
that.
animal, and you're attracted to light. Well, then get up in the morning.
Get
You'll
up.
have lots of it. Another question. Compared to bats, do owls ring any bells? Josie's ringing a bell?
Yes. Well, it's like what we've just been talking about, I think. It's something to do with sonar.
You're absolutely right. Why not have a point?
Oh, thank you.
When it was they first tried to experiment with how bats could see so well in the dark. They put owls and bats in a very, very dark room with some bells hung from ropes. And if it was slightly low light, the owls could see well enough to avoid the ropes. But if it was pitch black, they would fly into the ropes because they couldn't see them. Whereas the bats, if it was pitch black, just flew around and didn't ring any bells. And so that's how it was first seen, that bats could completely manoeuvre in the dark without bumping into anything.
So the flatter an owl's face, the bigger a bell it's run into.
Yeah.
Yes, probably, exactly.
That's why it's called an owl.
They are...
Ow!
I have an Arga. Yes, I know, I should be shot, but I do. And it kept going out. And I got the Arga person to
What,
come
down
and
the
look
shops, or...? You're out shopping and you see your Arga. You rush over and you just as you get there, it's not there, and you keep losing it.
So the Arga man kept coming, and he kept saying it's perfectly fine, and it kept going out again. So eventually he said, I've got to stay overnight, he said. This wasn't, come on. I'm just saying. Because he would come during the day, light it was perfect. In the morning, I'd ring him up and say it's gone out overnight, and he couldn't work it out. And what it turned out was it was an owl would roost on the top of the cowling of the flue, because it liked the warm air up it or whatever, and it would cover itself over it, and it would block it out and stop it. So it's a safety device if you block the chicken. The chicken? If you block it... the chimney of an argument goes out. Anyway, that's my owl Argus story. Wasn't worth telling. I'm pissed. Never mind. So there we are, ringing the bells. Next question. What is batology? Batology. There's the word on your screen. What is it?
It is not the study of bats.
Correct. You've saved yourself a big forfeit. Well done. There you are.
Could you give us a clue, or is that
It's a
not allowed?
fruit. Batology is the study of a particular fruit. A fruit that has two words for it in English, both of which begin with B.
Banana.
It's a native to Britain. And you can either call it a B or a B.
Apple.
Anyone in the audience?
Plum.
Bramble or blackberry? The audience is well up there.
Blackberries.
It's the study of blackberries. Very good. Well done. You may say it's not worth studying, but there are over 1,000 different species of bramble.
No, there aren't.
But the study of bats is actually chiroptology.
Alan, there's a plot for you here, mate, in your Jonathan Creek.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
you're an old lady come in, she's been picking blackberries, someone's been killed in the village, stabbed, and you go, she might be a batologist. Just a thought.
So, now, what is batophobia?
Fear of blackberries.
I'm sorry. You ought to be right. You ought to be right.
Surely no one's ever had fear of blackberries.
Quite exactly, so it isn't. Now, batophobia is actually it's a fear of being close to tall buildings. Panic attacks, irregular heartbeat, sweating, nausea, and an overall feeling of dread. I've got it.
Yeah.
Other phobias like that are bathophobia, the fear of depth, Alan. The fear of profundity of any kind. No. What is batology? Batology, spelled thus.
Batteries, the study of batteries.
No, it's not that. Nice thought.
It is. There's no other word in English with B-A-double-T at the beginning.
Battle?
Battle is the other one.
Baton?
Batten.
It reminds me of...
Batten down the hatches. This is another one.
Batten,
Apart
batter.
from those three.
It reminds me of the story of someone who was saying that sugar is the only English word that begins with S-U, but where the S is pronounced sh, and someone called out, "Are you sure?" Batology means pointlessly repeating the same thing over and over again.
Oh, my God.
Batology means pointlessly repeating the same thing over and over again.
Some people do that, don't they? I've got a friend who always repeats himself. His name's Dave, and we call him Dave Jarvu.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Is Dave aware he does it? Have you told
Yeah,
him?
because people said to him, "You say everything twice, that's why we call you Dave Jarvu." I see everything twice. I see everything twice. My
brother
Dave
has-
Jarvu, they call me Dave Jarvu.
We're moving on to births, but first Swedish girls. What happened to every 8-year-old Swedish girl in the year 1994? Young Ridge.
From what I understand, there were no 8-year-old girls in 1994. Because in 1986, every child born in Sweden was a boy, just purely by pure law of averages.
Genealogical freak.
No, let me give you the answer, which is that they had their 9th birthdays. If we believe the official statistics, all right, there were exactly 112,521 8-year-old girls in Sweden on the 1st of January 1994. And there was exactly the same number of 9-year-olds on the 1st of January 1995. And this is unique in statistics, because none died, none emigrated, precisely the same number survive a whole year. But in Britain in 1994, you might be interested to know, there are an astonishing range of accidents reported by the Trade and Industries Consumer Safety Unit's Home Accidents Surveillance System report. 8 people in the UK in 94 were injured by placemats. 13 sustained cruet injuries. 5 were wounded by dustpans. 8 suffered as a result of a bread bin accident. 5 were hurt by sieves. 14 fell foul of a serving trolley. 17 were treated for injuries caused by a draft excluder. 476 people were injured while on the lavatory. There you are. Underwear hurt 11 people.
How many of those people were drunk?
Well, exactly. That's a very good point. Well, how many of them were sexually experimentative, as it were? You know, you go to the doctor, I was just sitting down in the nude and this cruet happened to get stuck.
That's why in the hospital they use acronyms for, you know, like GOMER, which is get out of my emergency room.
Oh, really?
Or SARA, which is sexual activity-related accident. It's called a SARA.
There's an acronym they have in my part of the world, which doctors apparently put on patient notes, which is NFN, which stands for Normal for Norfolk.
Yes.
On the positive side, 1994, tea cosy damage was down from 3 in 93 to 0. So we cleared up the menace of tea cosy damage. Who knows? Who knows?
People don't use them very often, do they, nowadays?
No, because they're so dangerous.
Lethal.
Lethal. Now, what was the biggest tourist attraction in Canada between 1934 and 1943?
Ding dong.
Ah, beaten to the buzzer by Leslie Davis.
Niagara Falls.
Oh, dear, oh, dear. Oh, no.
Canada's a relatively young country, and I'm not sure how much of it there was at that time. Was it finished by the 30s?
As it were, I think more or less, yes.
Because Alberta's only about 80 years old.
I know the story, I know it.
Yeah. Yes?
It's a really sad story,
Yes.
actually.
Oh, yeah.
And didn't they have sextuplets or octuplets?
Quints, in fact. Quintuplets.
Quintuplets.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And everyone came to see
There they
them,
are.
and they were taken away from their parents and made to live in a house across
Exactly
the road.
right. Exactly right. It was the Dions, they were known as. There were these 5 girls who were born from a single egg to a rather poor family, and the father started talking about exhibiting them himself because they were very famous. In those days, before all kinds of fertility treatments, it was much rarer to have these kind of multiple births. So the government took over and put them in a hospital, and then slowly the hospital started to admit people, and it became the single biggest attraction in Canada. But after 9 years, the parents successfully got their girls back, but at the age of 18, they all left. 2 are still alive. But in 98, Mike Harris, who was the Prime Minister, travelled to apologise to the 2 remaining ones and give them $4 million as compensation and apologise on behalf of Canada.
4 million Canadian dollars.
Canadian dollars. Yes, not the US dollars are exactly worth singing
Throw
about
him a
these
bone.
days. Alan, question for you. Name all the events at the first recorded Olympic Games in the year 776 BC.
Discus.
Have another go.
Javelin.
No, try harder.
Hammer.
Oh, dear, No, I think that way madness lies.
Running.
Yes, but running is the answer.
Running, there's
It's
running.
just one race.
Just one race.
And if you get the distance, I will be astonished.
200 metres.
That's damn close. It's unfair. It's very unfair. I think you've taken enough forfeits because there was just one event and it was 192 metres. Which is the modern equivalent. It's a stadium, which is the length of the stadium. And that was the only race in the first Olympic Games.
That was the Olympic Games.
The first recorded one.
Yeah.
But they later developed, and indeed included discus and javelin and all wrestling and boxing and all the things you've mentioned. But unfortunately, the first recorded one was just one.
When was the first recorded one?
776 BC. Now, the next question, which is a subsidiary to this first recorded Olympics, is what was the naked chef doing there?
Ding dong.
Yes. Is that a response to the buttocks or
Yeah, the
Yeah.
prime pair.
for war?
Naked cooking for the athletes.
No, not quite.
Preparing meals for the judges. Selling food to the audience. Won the race.
Yes, quite right. The winner was a cook. Yep. His name was Coroebus of Elis, and he was a cook, and like all the contestants, was naked.
They all ran in the nude.
All ran in the nude. In the
How
nudie.
wonderful.
Even the trainers.
I would like to have seen the triple jump.
What about the pole vault?
Oh, don't.
Coroebus, of course, won by a short head. No, after his final spurt. No, shut up. Now, why is a marathon 26 miles and 385 yards long?
I feel a trap coming.
There's an utterly preposterous myth that it is the distance run from the battle marathon back to Athens. The myth is that it was a man called Phidippides
Yes.
who actually conducted the run to convey the news
Yes.
of the battle.
Yes. And in fact, it was the Battle of Snickers, not Marathon.
Exactly.
No, that's right. There is a fairly well-known story that a man called Phidippides apparently ran from Marathon, where there'd been a battle against the invading Persians. According to Herodotus, who was born 6 years after the battle, and whose account is the nearest we have to contemporary one, Phidippides ran from Marathon to Sparta, which is actually about 145 miles.
No way!
Yeah.
145 miles.
Yeah, and then he ran all the way back again because the Spartans were having a holy day.
But he died under the same...
But he didn't die. According to Herodotus, he didn't die.
I thought he
There's
did
no
die.
record of him dying at all, no. It was 500 years later in Plutarch and various other sources. This myth grew up. But the reason why the marathon is 26 miles, 385 yards, is the British royal family.
Is it the distance from Windsor to St. James?
Not Windsor to St James, but you're absolutely on the right lines. In 1908, there was Olympic Games held in London, and the marathon started outside a window in Windsor Castle, and half the royal family sat at the window going, oh, well done, go on, what fun, and they started. And the finish line was at the newly built White City Stadium, and it was exactly 26 miles, 385 yards, and for every Olympics afterwards, that was the settled length. Now, we pay our traditional visit, ladies and gentlemen, to the exam hall where all the candidates are writing with the wrong end of the pencil. It's the school of general ignorance. So fingers on buzzers, turn over your papers, and let's begin. Where were the first modern Olympics held? Still on Olympics? Yes.
1896 was the first year,
Yeah.
and I believe it was Athens.
No. It's not correct, I'm afraid. No. No.
Was it in Greece, though?
No, it wasn't in Greece. I'm sorry about that. No.
Was it London?
No, you're in the right country, though.
Damn.
If you got the place, I'd be very surprised. Johnny might, if I were to say A. Houseman, you might get the place.
Salisbury?
Nope.
Shropshire.
Shropshire is the right answer.
Shropshire, Edge.
Much Wenlock, as in on Wenlock Edge.
Wenlock Edge, go
The
on.
town of Much Wenlock from the year 1850 held Olympic Games. It's an extraordinary man called Dr. W.P. Brooks.
1896 was the first Olympics.
And so people suggest, but Baron Coubertin, who was the founder, supposedly, of the modern Olympic movement, and he wrote about W.P. Brooks. Much Wenlock is a town in Shropshire, a county on the borders of Wales, and if the Olympic Games that modern Greece has not yet been able to revive, he wrote this in 1890, Coubertin, still survive today, it is due not to a Greek, but to W.P. Brooks. It is he who inaugurated them 40 years ago. And it is he, now 82 years of age, still alert and vigorous, who continues to organise and inspire them. So Coubertin came to Wenlock Edge, and he, being a baron, having influence and political connections, was able to do what this little country parson was not able to do, which was to get the rest of the country, the rest of the world. But King George I of Greece, of the Hellenes, sent a silver medal to be a prize at the Wenlock Olympics. So for 46 years before the first Athens Olympiad, as it's counted, there were Olympic Games that are recognised by the very man who is known as the father of the Olympic movement.
Gosh.
So let's hear it from
That's
W.P.
wonderful.
Brooks. But he died just a year before the Athens Olympics. So there we are.
2012, Hackney.
Yeah, could be, couldn't it?
Could be Hackney.
Could be.
Nothing
Yep.
wrong with Hackney.
What
I
a
live in
shithole. Kayaking down the Lee River.
I used to live in Hackney.
You can develop film in the Lee River, but you can't kayak down
Now, here's a question. Why was King Charles XIV of Sweden ashamed of his tattoo?
It's Dudley Moore, isn't it?
Charles XIV of Sweden.
Well, because Bernadotte, one of Napoleon's
have the right
generals,
answer.
went to become king of Sweden,
He did.
and did Charles XIV, was that Bernadotte?
It was.
And he had a tattoo, I love Napoleon, on his arse. No.
No. He wasn't appointed by Napoleon. He was actually appointed by the ailing Charles XIII. Napoleon regarded it as a joke. But Bernadotte had been a young revolutionary, a Jacobin. And he had a tattoo that said, "Death to Kings," as a young man. Wow. Then he was adopted by the old King of Sweden,
Yes.
Charles XIII, became Charles XIV,
Yes.
and was incredibly successful, and completely backed away from France, had an alliance with England,
The Great
and with
Coalition,
Russia,
yeah.
invaded Norway, became King of Norway as well, and the Bernadotte family still rules Sweden.
Yeah.
They are still the kings.
It's very confusing, that
revolutionary.
period, because, I mean, Napoleon had Irish generals. He even had a Scottish general.
Yeah.
You know just because you came from somewhere, you didn't have to fight for their army.
No, indeed. Here's a question. Which Scandinavian king might you have in your mobile phone? Johnny?
Gustavus Adolphus?
No.
King Nokia.
No. Though it would be
King
in a-
Ericsson.
No, yes, I mean...
King Motorola.
No, actually, in it, not as a make-off.
King Sim.
No. There was a King Harold who had a nickname.
Bluetooth.
Thank you. Bluetooth is the answer. Harold Bluetooth was the
Hurt me
king
neck
who
when I was so excited to get that right.
He united Finland and Sweden and Norway, and when Ericsson and Nokia and all the others you mentioned were thinking of a unified approach to wireless connection between mobile phones, they called it Bluetooth in his honour.
Oh, really? Because of him?
Yeah.
Actually named
Harold
after
Bluetooth.
him?
Yeah. We have the last question. What do St Bernards carry in barrels around their necks?
Brandy.
Johnny Rodney Woo! No, never have.
Armagnac.
It's a myth. Armagnac is a kind of brandy. It's just not a cognac. They never use casks in rescue work. Brandy, after all, would kill someone with hypothermia.
Yes.
They just do it for tourists. It's because of a painting in 1831 by Landseer. That's not the painting, incidentally, but
Very good
just done
likeness.
for tourism. The dog painted by Landseer was called Barry, and he was very handsome, and he'd rescued 40 people and was something of a hero. Unfortunately, he was killed by the 41st person, who thought he was a wolf.
Oh, that's terrible.
But in his honour, the handsomest St Bernard
That's
is
horrible.
always called Barry at the St Bernard Hospice.
So why was Barry painted with a barrel round his neck, then?
Occasionally they would carry milk and things like that, but certainly not brandy.
Was St. Bernard a patron saint of skiers who need some brandy?
Well, it's a pass, isn't it? It's a pass between Italy and
I tell you what is a
Switzerland.
really good patron saint, to put, and it works, is St Anthony, the patron saint of lost things.
Yeah.
If you lose something in the house and you just say, please, St Anthony, will you help me find this? I guarantee, because it's happened with me with keys and everything, in about half an hour to an hour, you find whatever...
Bullshit!
Stephen!
No, it's not. I'm sorry. Something tells me it is so much arse. Anyway, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the bittersweet business of the scores. And here we are. I will have to go, I fear, in order of first to last. Tied in first place are Josie and Rich with 4 points. How about that? In third place, despite some magnificent knowledge, he did plunge into our traps a few times with minus 14. It's Johnny Sessions. But limping somewhat a few laps behind with, I think, a record-breaking minus 72 is Alan Davis. That's all from Rich, Johnny, Josie, Alan and myself. I'll leave you with this quite interesting thought. Good night.